Good night. Group Yannick Innes here. I'll be taking you through a code through of our STEM app. The STEM stands for Science, Technology, English, Mathematics. This is the educational quiz application, and as you can see, I'll be taking you through the code level of this app. Firstly, as you can see on our far left, here are the classes of STEM in one package. Firstly, we'll be looking at the main class here that's been created, STEM class, and then we have a new STEM UI initiated. I'll be taking you to that STEM class, UI class. Here is the UI class, use interface. This class is responsible for the user front end of the app, which the user interacts, which there's buttons to be pressed, and the panel on which the game is displayed. As you can see here, this STEM UI extends the JFrame. This JFrame will be holding the panels, the buttons that will be responsible for the gameplay and other stuff. We have a main frame here, and we create our variables. Public JFrame, we have one JFrame here, some panels, some labels, and then we have our constructor. Within our constructor, these variables are instantiated. You can see our panel here is instantiated. We have a few more panels, and then we have our labels and our buttons have been instantiated as well. And more down, so we have some editing of the labels. After that, we have we add these panels and buttons to the frame. Then we have our set visible. These are responsible for the size of our frame, and without this set visible equal to true, we won't be able to see the frame that we've created. This set resizable has been set to false. This set resizable is the size of the window when the application is launched. Whatever size it is initially set to, I set it to false, it means it can't be changed. So whatever size it is set to, and as you can see, the size is set to 1380, 720. So whatever size is set to, it remains that way. We have a title, is the name of the frame, and we have our set default close operation. Now this basically is responsible for the close, which is this red X here. Whenever you want to close the application, it is responsible. Alright, then we have this is one of our grades, but within the application we have three grades, primarily grade 1 to 3. This is our first grade class that we have created. This is all our variables that have been created. Here we have our buttons. We have our constructor here where these are instantiated again. This part, the buttons, we put some responsibility to these buttons and labels. In this case, we have four categories, as I said in the beginning. There's science, technology, English, and mathematics. This science label, as the application open, this science label, firstly we have our layout we use a grid layout. So when this window opens and we click on grade 1, you'll be seeing a grid with 4 rows and 3 columns. And that will primarily hold the science, the 4 topics, 4 columns, 3 rows for the 4 topics, and there's a minimum of 3, just 3 questions now for startup. First we have our label at the top. Each column, this first column is responsible for science, and this label will be science at the top. Then we have our button, which is question 1. These buttons is responsible for each question, each 3 questions. And then we have our other 3 buttons, which is the responses for these questions that will be posted. Then we have our J option pane that shows a message dialog. When the user press the button, question 1, this message box pops up with these 3 responses, and the user has the option to choose between these 3 responses. This button, now we had an action listener to the button, so when the user presses or asks a response, presses their response to the question, this dialog box or this message box, depends on which answer they choose, to come up. If it's the right answer, if they choose response C, which is the correct answer, this J option pane will show up a pop message telling the user your response is correct. Otherwise, if they choose any other option, then they will get this dialog box. To the next question, it goes on, repeats itself. If they click this question, they have these 3 responses here. There's a message box with the message dialog with the question that pops up, the 3 responses, and then there's the action listener to the button. So when the person presses button, question pops up, 3 responses, then there's the action listener to the button. If the person presses response A, response B, or response C, depends. If they press response A, then this first dialog box will show up saying you are correct, else you are incorrect. Then it goes on. If they choose the third question, same thing repeats itself, and it goes on for the other topics. There's technology, and it goes through. We have an action listener for each column, for each different topic. Technology, see, we have the button the user can press, and this is the option. This is the question in the dialog box which will pop up to them. And then there's the action listener to the response button. If they press response B, then they will get this dialog box again saying correct, else the message box will show them that they're not correct. And it goes on for each. Then the next is, we have English, and it repeats for the English category. Then we have, last but not least, the mathematics, and it repeats for the mathematics category. And at the bottom, each one of the variables added or initialized at the top is added to this panel, and the panel for this frame is the grade system, the grade stem. As you can see, each variable is added. Has to be added. If these are not added, it will not show up on the window. As you can see here. As you can see, we scroll up back. We have our imports. We have our imports at the top here. Then we go on to our second grade, which is the grade 2. And again, we have our variables initialized. And then we have a constructor, and we instantiate these variables. Here we have our categories again, the science category. And they have their is quiz based. So as the individual clicks on the question or the tile or the button that will be shown on the STEM application, is the dialog box that will pop up to give them the question, and under that they will have the responses, each of which are buttons. They will have the choice to pick, and these buttons are in a action listener. This action listener is responsible for the action that is performed when these buttons are clicked. If it is clicked and the response is A, now if the button is clicked and the response is A, we have this message displayed to them. Else, if it's not A, then they have you are incorrect. This message dialog displayed to them. I'll say it's 3 questions. We have our technology category that carries through with the STEM system. And there is our mathematics. As you can see here, these variables, after being added and instantiated, has to be added again. And it carries through for the third grade. See, it repeats the creation of variables. Then there's the constructor initialization. Here's our questions, the dialog box, our action listener. You can see our categories with the questions and the action listener. So when the user interacts and presses the button, they will have some sort of, they'll have these messages displayed to them, show them the progress within the game. You can see it carries on for the mathematics and the English. And again, these are added again to the panel. With each correct response in the game, the user gets to advance. With each wrong is time deducted from the initial time started. Some time constraints. We didn't get to add the timer class, and there was a class responsible for keeping scores, but this will be added to the those two classes will be added to the updated version, should be released soon. Um, and this is our STEM game thus far. It has been a bit challenging, but no complaints. We've tried. Thank you for the experience. We will build upon this here.